As you heard in the episode on the goodness of creation, the earth and everything on it was created for human needs. Even more specifically, in Genesis 1:28, God gave human beings dominion over all of creation, something that is echoed in Genesis 2 and in Psalm 8, verses 6 to 8. Quote, "You have given him dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, and also the beasts of the field, the birds of the heaven, and the fish of the sea, whatever passes along the paths of the sea."
With these passages in mind, in this episode, we're going to look at what it means for humans to have dominion over the earth and all of creation.
Before getting too far into the discussion on dominion, we're going to pause here and unpack the word itself. The definition of dominion is sovereignty, control, and domination. We certainly can tend to hear these words negatively, and our default reaction may be to push back on such strong words.
In context of human dominion over creation, it can certainly be heard as the right to dominate the earth and all creatures of the earth for our own benefit. A blank check given from God, basically, to use the earth and all of creation to meet our own needs. But as we'll talk about in this episode, that is not at all what God is saying when he gives humans dominion over creation.
To start to unpack dominion in the scriptural understanding, we're going to remind you what Genesis 1:28 says. "And God blessed them, and God said to them, Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth."
The first thing to note when talking about Genesis 1:28 is that God gives human beings dominion, not by way of advice, but rather as an explicit command. God is not telling human beings to think about it or to pick and choose what parts of creation we want to engage with, or anything else along those lines.
Rather, God commands us to fill the earth and subdue it, and to have dominion over the fish, birds, and every living thing on earth.
Sounds pretty straightforward, right? Well, yes and no. Luther notes that dominion over all of creation now is very different from what it was before the fall. In fact, he said, quote, "We retain the name and word dominion as a bare title, but the substance itself has been almost entirely lost," end quote.
Before the fall, said Luther, dominion meant Adam and Eve had no need of skill or cunning in dealing with creation. Why was this the case? Because just as Adam and Eve heard God's voice and command, so too did all creatures obey God's voice, giving Adam and Eve dominion over them. Even so, God's command to Adam and Eve to have dominion over all of creation meant they were to work the earth and take care of it.
Part of our ability to have dominion over creation, both before and after the fall, is the human capacity to reason. Luther maintained that the human capacity to reason was given to us as a gift from God, and is part of God's making humans lord over the earth, birds, fish, etc. Even after the fall, God did not remove our capacity to reason, although Luther is insistent on the reality that our capacity to reason has been greatly corrupted after the fall.
With that in mind, let's look at a few more facets of our dominion over the earth and all of creation. The dominion and rule of humanity over the earth, of which Genesis 1:28 speaks, is, according to Genesis 2:15, exercised in working the earth and taking care of it. Therefore, labor is part of the created order and is given to humanity from the beginning as a task, in order to benefit the earth and to benefit the neighbor.
Dominion also includes the command God gives to Adam and Eve in Genesis 1:28 to be fruitful and multiply. Thus, the natural orders of human existence, husband and wife, children, family, society, are all part of the concept of our having dominion over creation.
As sinners, humans continue to have a dominion over all of creation, but it is no longer the free exercise of dominion. Now our dominion is marked by fear and by force. Even so, although God punished Adam and Eve with pain in childbirth and sweating and laboring in the fields, it is still God who through human toil produces harvest, it is still God who gives us children.
This is a critical part of the Christian conversation about dominion, and specifically the Lutheran conversation. Luther understood that God's command to us to have dominion was in sharp contrast to monks and other Christians who believed they should withdraw from the world in its vocations of serving the neighbor.
In other words, part and parcel to God's command to have dominion is the command to engage fully in all human vocations. So, spouse, parent, farmer, teacher, garbage collector, whatever the neighbor needs from you. To do otherwise, to withdraw for your own benefit, would be to disobey God's command to have dominion over all the earth and all of creation.
Hence, when a maid milks the cows or a hired man hoes the field, provided that they are believers, namely, that they conclude that this kind of life is pleasing to God and was instituted by God, they serve God more than all the monks and nuns. End quote.
For Luther, the free gift of the world through God's promise, you may have dominion, does not mean that our fellow creatures are commodities for consumption. Instead, to rule, to have dominion means rule so that everything blooms, care for the earth, creation, and your neighbors, not for your own benefit, but all for the benefit of others.